It's the height of the Cold War. Panic erupts in a small Russian city. Hundreds of people, from school children to police officers, all report the same impossible sight. A glowing craft landing in the middle of a crowded park, and a towering, three-eyed being making a boy vanish into thin air. But here's the twist that sends shockwaves across the globe. The Soviet propaganda machine doesn't bury the story. It confirms it. The same iron-fisted regime that spent decades denying anything it couldn't control suddenly tells the world, yes, this happened. Scientists have confirmed it. So what exactly happened in Voronezh that made the most secretive government on Earth break its own silence? September 27th, 1989, just after 6:30 p.m. In Voronezh's South Park, the day was ending like any other. Kids played football, parents sat on benches watching as the light faded. It was a scene so ordinary that no one could have guessed how quickly it would turn surreal. It began with a glow. A faint pinkish light appeared in the sky, strange enough to draw a few curious stares. But what emerged from that glow froze the entire park in place. A massive, deep red sphere, 30 feet across, slid silently out of the haze. It moved with unnatural precision, circling the park like a watchful eye. Then, a hatch opened. In the doorway stood a figure unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Witnesses described it as impossibly tall, 9, maybe 10 feet, with a disproportionately small head perched on its huge frame. It wore silver clothing, bronze boots, and 3 eyes glowed from its tiny head.
He had no head and shoulders. He just had a kind of lamp. From here to there. He had 3 eyes, 2 on the sides and 1 in the middle.
The craft descended, touching down on the grass with deliberate, weightless grace. A hiss of air, then silence. The hatch opened again. This time the giant figure stepped fully into the open. A smaller box-like companion, a robot according to witnesses, moved beside it. For a moment no one spoke. The crowd seemed caught between awe and terror. Then a teenage boy screamed. The being turned, its 3 eyes locked on him and blazed with light. The boy went silent mid-cry, his body snapping rigid like a puppet with its strings pulled tight. He stood frozen in place, paralyzed. That immediately broke the spell. People screamed. The giant turned and walked back into the craft. Some thought it was over. It wasn't. The being re-emerged holding a long, dark, tube-like object. Witnesses called it a gun. It raised the weapon, aimed it at the motionless boy, and in an instant, the boy was gone. No flash, no sound. One moment he was there, the next he wasn't. Then the panic hit full force. People ran, others stared in shock. The giant turned once more, then stepped back into the craft with the robot following. The hatch closed and the sphere lifted off, hovered briefly, then shot into the night sky and disappeared. And then, as if this story weren't strange enough already, the boy reappeared. Same spot, same posture. Alive, dazed, and completely unharmed. The calls began to flood the local militia precinct. There were too many witnesses, too many matching reports. This was no longer a children's story. It was a mass sighting event. The initial police response quickly escalated. Before midnight, the military had arrived. South Park was immediately sealed off from the public, as what happened within its borders was now a matter of state security. The next morning, the investigation began in earnest. The case was handed over to a team of scientists from the Voronezh Geophysical Laboratory, led by physicist Genrik Silanov. Their task was simple: to determine, using tools of science, what had occurred in the park the night before. The most obvious trace was a massive circular depression nearly 40 feet in diameter. The grass within it was swirled and flattened. At the center of the circle were 4 deep, distinct indentations, arranged in a perfect rhombus. One of the investigators, civil engineer Yuri Lozetsev, performed a soil mechanics calculation. create such deep, compacted impressions in the dense Earth, the object that landed there would have needed to exert static force equivalent to a weight of 11.5 tons. But the strangest evidence they found was invisible. Silinov's Geiger counter registered elevated levels of radioactive cesium, particularly within the landing marks. Soil analysis revealed bizarre anomalies. One of the most chilling discoveries came from the microbiology lab. The soil from the landing site was almost sterile. Something had killed nearly all the bacteria, as if the ground had been blasted with an unknown form of radiation or extreme heat. The evidence was compelling, but it was confined to a secret Soviet file. It might have stayed there forever, just another classified UFO report, except it didn't. On October 9th, TASS, the official state-run news agency, the Kremlin's mouthpiece, released a statement. It wasn't vague, it was explicit.
Scientists have confirmed that an unidentified flying object recently landed in a park in the Russian city of Voronezh. They have also identified the landing site and found traces of aliens who made a short promenade about the park.
The story became an international firestorm.
Space aliens are said to have landed in a UFO. The nightly news program Premiere broadcast a report from central Russia and an interview with a boy who spoke of being scared when he saw the UFO and the creature who stepped from it, describing it as being 10 feet tall, with no head or shoulders, no nose, 3 eyes.
The evil empire, the regime built on secrets and denial, was now the primary source for a confirmed alien landing. Was it a sign of true openness under glasnost? A bizarre piece of disinformation? Or was it the truth? The Voronezh incident presents a paradox. The physical traces suggest a tangible mechanical event, a heavy craft landing with measurable force, but the witness accounts describe something closer to a hallucination. On September 22nd, it was a 10-foot-tall, silver-suited giant with a robot. The next night, 3 silent figures in dark blue cloaks. Another night, children spoke of a featureless shadow boy, climbing a tree before vanishing completely. It was as if the phenomenon were changing masks from one encounter to the next. Even the craft's emblems seemed to shift. Some children drew a simple X. Others drew a Cyrillic letter, eerily similar to the symbol linked to the infamous Umo affair, which was widely considered a hoax. But buried in the testimony was another detail almost no one caught at the time. The symbol also resembled the ancient Greek letter epsilon, the same Delphic E that once crowned Apollo's temple at Delphi. For the Greeks, this was no ordinary letter. The Delphic epsilon symbolized light, knowledge, and the union of body, mind, and soul. It presided over the temple's commandments, know thyself and nothing in excess. Some scholars saw it as a map of the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And then there was the being itself. Every witness agreed on one impossible detail: 3 glowing eyes. That's not a common trope in science fiction, but it is a precise feature of some of Earth's oldest gods. In Greek myth, Apollo, god of light and prophecy, carried the epithet Triopian, the 3-eyed one. In the Vedic texts of India, his older cousin Rudra bore the same trait, Triambakam, the 3-eyed storm god whose arrows could bring plague or healing, destruction or protection. 2 cultures thousands of miles apart, describing gods of light and chaos with the same inhuman face. The connection deepens with Apollo's most loyal followers, the Hyperboreans, a mythical race of giants said to live in a paradise beyond the north wind. Every winter, Apollo was believed to leave Delphi for Hyperborea, a land many Greeks placed far to the north, in regions that overlap with modern-day Russia. Was this an alien visitor, or the return of something far older, something we once called a god? And yet the contradictions refuse to resolve. Multiple beings, multiple craft, sensational claims broadcast by the state, then clumsily debunked by its own scientists. A boy supposedly vanishes and reappears but is never identified, never interviewed. It's a chaos of shifting narratives. A story confirmed, then discredited, then confirmed again. It's a pattern we've seen before. In 1947, the US Army announced it had recovered a flying disc near Roswell. Less than 24 hours later, the story was reversed. Just a weather balloon, they insisted. The extraordinary became mundane, and the event collapsed under its own contradictions. So what was Voronezh? A genuine but chaotic event the Soviets failed to contain? A psyop dressed in absurdity to make the truth untouchable? Or something stranger still, a moment where mythology itself bled into modern history under the cold autumn sky of 1989?